I'm here with a good friend of mine, Mr. Jared Polin from FroKnowsPhoto.com. Jared and I, we go way back, and in this discussion, we wanted to talk about something that we were talking about this offline, and Jared has some stuff coming out that's going to help photographers, but specifically, this is about DSLR video. And we talk about DSLR video on the show a lot in terms of, or not even just DSLR videos, video with mirrorless cameras, with cell phone cameras, with DSLRs, video in general, and how it has come down and is now accessible to all of us. And Jared is doing some cool stuff in terms of education around that. But I wanted to talk to him specifically about just sort of demystifying some of the issues that photographers have. So Jared, first of all, I'm going to dive right into this, as you know how I do. So welcome. Thank you for doing this.
Thanks for having me.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So I'm looking on the shelf behind you. I see a bunch of DSLR stuff. I see FroKnowsPhoto bobbleheads back there. I see all kinds of cool stuff back there. So, not that having a bunch of gear means you know what you're talking about, but you know what you're talking about. You've been doing this for a while. You do your podcast, which is insanely popular. The main problem that you see from photographers today that are looking at, okay, hey, I have this camera that shoots video, or I want to get into shooting video, where do they fall down at in terms of the perception of what's needed?
Well, I think, first and foremost, let me talk about the shelf real quick. There's a Canon box up there. There's a 7D Mark II box that actually joined the shelf the other day because I picked one of those up to test it. And the rest are vintage Kodaks and all the Polaroids I bought. But where people fall down, I think what's interesting about where we're at today is that these cameras give us the ability to do so much more than when we shot film. Because about a year ago, I took my F5 out, put a roll of black and white film in, went to shoot a band of mine during rehearsal, and the first thing I did was take a picture and then look at the back of the camera, but of course there's no screen on an F5.
Right.
And I'm sitting there going, okay, and I'm limited by the ISO capability of the one roll of film that I have in there. So 3200 Ilford was what I was using. Mm-hmm. And then by the end of the shoot, after my 36 shots, I broke out at the time, I guess it was the D4. And I'm like shooting stills wherever I could. And then I flipped into video because I have that option.
Yeah.
I think where people get lost today is they get glamorized the fact that I'm just a photographer. I do stills. That's what I do. But we have the ability today, in whatever camera you have, whether it's a DSLR, Micro Four Thirds, mirrorless, or your phone, to tell a story in a different way, and that's DSLR video.
Yeah. And how do you get people to do that? Because I know, and I'm speaking from personal experience, I am that person, or I was that person. Like, you know what? I'm a still photographer. I know I got a red button on my camera, but I'm not, that's a whole nother world. I'll pay attention to that later. And just pressing that button, so you're doing a shoot of something, you press the button, okay, I got to clip a video. Now what do I do with it? So what next? How do people get their mind around just filling up their memory card with HD video?
Well, first off, what I tell people when they're going out on a shoot is you're either doing stills or you're doing video. You're not doing both at the same time, because if you try to get the mindset that I'm going to shoot both at the same time, you're going to miss everything that you need to focus on.
Yeah.
So if I'm shooting a concert and I'm doing some photos and some video, I will shoot 2 songs of photos, or I'll shoot 3 songs of photos and then focus on the video aspect of it, so that my mindset can switch over in the middle, but not so much where I'm taking stills and I'm like, oh snap, this is great, I need to get video of it.
Yeah.
That is the thing that people have to remember first and foremost. But the rest, when you're starting out, it obviously comes down to education. I think what people are most afraid of, and this was me when when I was in college and it was flash photography, I'm like, well, I shoot with natural light. Well, that's because I was more afraid of shooting with flash. I could shoot in the studio all day long. Studio lighting, that was simple. On-camera flash was a whole different ballgame when you're setting that manually and distances, and I was more afraid to do that, so of course you fight it. Right. Until there's something there to educate you on how to do it. Yeah. So nowadays with the internet, there's a lot of people educating for free or for selling products, but there's a lot of information that you can get there for taking the fear out of what you're doing. And so when I started shooting video over 4 years ago, when the D3S, the D3 didn't do video, but the D3S gave me 5 minutes of video, heated the hell out of the camera because it got really hot.
Yep.
And I would sit down, set the camera like I was shooting a photo, like 1/500th of a second or 1/1000th of a second outside at f4.5 or something, because I wanted to get that nice background. but that's kind of backwards. That's not what you do when you shoot video. There's rules of thumb, like if you're shooting at 24 frames a second, your shutter speed should be twice your frame rate. So where you're at 24 frames a second, your shutter speed should be theoretically 1/48, but on our cameras it's 1/50th. So you set it to there, twice your frame rate. If it's 60 frames a second, because you're trying to get that slow motion for later, then you're going to shoot that at 1/20th or 1/25th of a second. You do that so that you have, I learned so much making, the FroKnowsPhoto Guide, the DSLR video, but I had to learn so much on my own at the forefront over 4 years ago, and I did so many things wrong. My audio was terrible because I sat there and I set it on auto. And this was before I got a microphone, but I realized within a couple of videos that I better spend that $500 to get the wireless microphone to make this work. But even when I got that, I didn't have a knowledge of how to set audio. So it would be a bunch of hissing in the background, because what most people don't realize is when you get into your camera in the audio section, you have manual settings. So you have to know how to set your audio manually, and it took me years and years to figure this out until I finally sat down with somebody who was much smarter than me when it came to video or audio, and they said, oh, it's this simple. You make sure you don't peak. You don't get into the red area.
Red is bad.
That's why,
Red is bad, right?
Yeah, and that's how you get into... that's how you're gonna get rid of the hissing, because I'll just explain real quick and then get back to you. When you set the levels to auto and let the camera, it's kind of like shooting photos in auto. When it blows you're taking a picture at a concert and everything's overly bright or overly dark because it's exposing for the bright light. Same thing's gonna happen with audio. So what I had to learn was. Well, I'm trying to get my train of thought because I always do that. Yeah, I always bounce around. Where was I going?
We were talking about audio and the complexities around audio. I'll edit this. The complexity.
No, you don't have to edit. You can keep me going. I don't mind. I always forget. My brain it goes 12 different directions. But once I understood audio and getting the levels right in the camera, my audio went a whole new direction, because you could have the greatest looking video in the world, but if the audio sounds terrible, people are going to skip it. Or you could have vice versa, the best audio in the world, and it doesn't look so good, but people can understand it, and they'll be like, oh, well, it sounds good at least.
Yeah, at least I can understand what's going on in there. And that's one of the things. Is that, we could talk for hours on this. And there's like three things. There's more than three things, but from my non-DSLR video mind, photographer mind, that are scary to photographers. And I'm hoping you address these in, the course that you have, the FroKnowsPhoto Guide to DSLR video. So there's all the stuff that you just talked about, how motion relates to traditional quote photography. Like, if I shoot, I know intrinsically if I drag my shutter with my camera on a tripod, I can get cool long exposure streaks of traffic and all that. How does that translate to video? So that's, those kind of just f-stops, shutter speeds, all that crap. Let
me run you through it.
Yeah, go for it.
It's simple. The reason I made this guide with Todd Wolf, who's a filmmaker and made plenty of motion pictures, I made it because I wish I had something like this when I started, because it would have saved me a ton of time and it would have saved me a ton of money because time is money. But I wish I had this thing. So when we set out to put it together, I'm like, I want to look at it from a photographer standpoint moving into video, whether you're an amateur or a full-time professional, because we know there's a lot of professionals who have been around a long time that just haven't switched into video, but they keep getting asked after they do a portrait, a headshot of a client, hey, do you make an EPK? Can you make a commercial for me for YouTube? And now the funny thing is you can get so much more money from shooting video than shooting stills. It's a great addition to what you're doing. But when we set it out, you talk about dragging the shutter. I'm all about Mr. Rogers, right? Showing you, seeing it in action so you can understand it. And I think that's what a lot of people miss out on is visually, we're very visual people as artists and photographers and video makers, is that we need to see it in action to understand it. So when it came to understanding shutter speed, because the exposure triangle is different for video as it is than from photos, a bunch of things are the same, but a lot of it, different things happen. So I used a metronome to demonstrate shutter speed. So, okay, let's see the metronome. It's going to stay at a constant speed. Let's see what it does at 1/15th of a second. Now let's go to 1/30th of a second. Now let's take it to 1/1000th of a second. So you go from something that's blurring across the screen at 15th of a second to something that's staccato and it's like crisp and clear at a 1000th of a second. Now, when I said that the rule of thumb is twice your frame rate, so if you're at 24 frames a second, you're at 1/50th of a second with your frame rate, those rules don't always have to be followed. It depends on what you're going for. If you're trying to be like, so what you want, making a music video, and you want something to be really just jumpity and herky-jerky, then you're going to bump your shutter speed all the way up there. Right. But when we demonstrate ISO doesn't change much. From photos to video, okay. It's still going to give you that grain look. There's really not much difference there, but you ride your ISO when you need to ride it. Instead of dropping your shutter speed in this case, or raising your shutter speed, you ride the ISO and the aperture. But where we all talk about glass being king and shooting 1.4, well, good luck shooting 1.4 video of somebody moving and try to follow focus them, because with video,
because you like that much depth of field, right? Yeah.
So I use a piano to demonstrate. The piano, we shoot down the piano at my hands to demonstrate this is 1.4, and now I'm going to play, and Todd's going to try to follow focus me with the lens that he had on at 1.4, and he couldn't do it. Not very many people can follow focus at 1.4. I can't do it. Yeah. So then we demonstrate that, hey, if you shoot at 5.6, maybe more than just the whole hand is in there. So it gives you a little bit more leeway to pull your focus, because focus is extremely important. Now, with video, you can miss every once in a while because it's all those frames moving. But when you move instead of shooting at 1.4 and you move it to 5.6 or 6.3, you're giving yourself more leeway to pull. And when I say pull, that means you're turning the focus ring depending on which way the subject is. And when you have more depth of field, you have an easier time of keeping somebody in focus. Now, before you get into that, if you want to shoot at 1.4, that's going to be great when you're shooting a subject that you're doing an interview on and you're going for something specific. They're not moving too far or at all, so that's when you can lock in your focus and get that right.
And that's what people are. And see what you just said. See, all that stuff was gold, because a lot of photographers think that, okay, like you were talking about, glass is king, right? So I need fast glass because I need to blur the background to make it look like a commercial or a music video or something. So I'm going to shoot wide open, and everything else falls from there. And you're saying don't shoot wide open unless you are doing a portrait type head and shoulders or something like that, right?
It's all stylistic. Like if you're going to if you're doing a camera review and you want to shoot it at 1.4 because it's not moving, you're going to have a much easier time of getting it in at 1.4, 1.8, 2.2. So, it's all dependent on what you're shooting, but it's that mentality that if you're going to follow somebody down the street, and we demonstrated this I did my FroKnowsPhoto music, my rap song. I have a rap song. Well, we showed the whole making of the music video. It's one of I'm not, when it comes to teaching, it's all about showing you how it's done.
Yeah.
It's all about showing
That's
you.
That's how we learn. Creatives need to see it, right?
And we show the bad takes too. We show everything. So you get to see all of the shoots that we do literally through Todd's camera. And Todd, by the way, was using a 60D. So it's a 4-year-old camera. Somewhere I said 6 once before, I was wrong. Don't know where that came from, but it's a 4-year-old crop sensor camera that doesn't do 1080 at 60 frames, but it does 1080 at 720. Sorry, 1080 at 720. It does 60 frames at 720. But just to tell people, that camera's what, $600-700 at this point?
Yeah.
Todd used that for his 3 shoots in the guide. So you get to see that we're not using the most expensive gear. And throughout the whole process, we're not just showing you, oh, look, you can use a D4S and you can use the most expensive sliders and booms and microphones. We're showing you the inexpensive options, the medium expensive options, the most expensive options. But look, here's a $30 microphone that plugs right in that's going to infinitely change your video. So look, I mean...
Yeah, I can see you're passionate about this. So
I'm passionate about everything.
I know. Here's the other thing, though. Here's the other piece that a lot of it's just sort of like once you crack Pandora's box on DSLR video, all these things come out, right? So there's everything you just talked about, and then there's also now I need to learn editing. And now I need to figure out storage options. You touched on audio, but that's like you said, that's critical to understand audio, and not only at the point of capture, but also when you're in post-production.
Sure.
Do you hit on all that stuff? Talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, what we hit on, we made the choice not to dive too far into editing into this product. Because if I was to do that, we're talking maybe $300-400 for something. Because it's already 6 hours long. And we're thinking, because we're in the process of making an editing guide that dives deeper into just the editing aspect of it.
Cool.
And when I say editing, we're not going to sit there and say, this is how you learn how to use Final Cut. We're all about mentality. So practicality, the reason you cut here instead of cutting here, or what type of transitions work here, or how to get your audio this way and that way. But what we do have is there's a bonus, a free bonus that we include where Todd is sitting in his editing suite and he's just dumping out information, trying to give you guys mentality to get everything going. But the key to this first and foremost is understanding how to shoot, getting the mentality down, the fundamentals, because look, once you understand why you do this, then it makes shooting videos so much easier when you understand the fundamentals, and it takes all the fear and the guesswork out of it. And I've given the guide to some of my professional friends who are full-time photographers that haven't ventured in, and we're talking guys that shoot for Getty, that shoot professionally and have been shooting for 25 years, and we sit there and talk about video, and they're like, yeah, I need a kick in the butt to make it work. I'm like, here, watch this. And I showed them just an 8-minute preview, the same preview you can post on your page. It's 8 minutes of actual stuff from the guide. I showed them that, and he's like, oh. He's like, if you show the rest of it like this, then, wow, I'm going to totally get it.
That's cool.
Because I don't want to spoon feed everything. I want to give people the information to learn, to get it, and then to send them on their way to figure out the rest. You know, not figure it out, but work at it, practice. Because the only way you get better is by actually doing it.
Yeah.
So, but once you get the fundamentals down,
so
in a fun way.
I want to talk about the guide a little bit because we kind of hinted that, you know, what you have here. So the FroKnowsPhoto guide to DSLR video. You said I heard you say it's 6 hours long. Yeah. So just tell me what it is and why you built it. Like, did you see a need in the industry? It's like, okay, I need to fix this, and I have the tools. Tell me about it.
Well, after I put out the flash guide and the beginner guide to getting out of auto, the photo side of it, I was sitting there talking to one of my graphic designers. He's in California, and he bought a Rebel something, and he started asking me questions about it, and I was like, oh, I'm like, it's. This makes sense. People need to know it. It's the biggest thing in the industry. It's where things are going. You know, people need to understand how to shoot video, and then that's the point I called Todd on the phone, because if anybody has seen my first two guides, he's the director and the guy who shot him he's the guy behind it. Oh, and the one thing we talk about a lot is the one-man band aspect of it. That's what we talk about in the guide a ton. And what we mean by that is that you can go and do everything on your own. You can shoot the video. You can figure out how to set everything in the camera properly. You can learn how to add motion to it. You can do all the audio. You can do all your own lighting. It's not that hard. Yeah. You can do it all, and that's what we talk about as a one-man band. But it becomes easier as you become better and you bring in a friend and say, look, I need you to do X for me because it's going to help make my work easier. But I want people to know that they can shoot video now on their own with what they have, as long as their camera takes video.
Right. Now, that's a good way to start. I mean, should people just endeavor to start like that? Because you need to know all these pieces, right? And before you can start doling them out. Like, you have a graphic designer, you got to know a little bit about design before you can ask and speak in the language of graphic design. You need to know a little bit about audio before you can ask and say, hey, this is hot, you know, can you fix it? Right? So the one-man band thing, I would say, is kind of a prerequisite to growing your team. Would you agree with that?
Well, yeah, because if you just outsource everything to everybody else, you're never actually learning it yourself.
Right.
I think, isn't it an Army thing where they have everybody, like, teach a specialist? The specialist then goes back to the unit and teaches everybody everything he knows, and then the other people teach everything that they know, so that everybody has a piece of everything, but there's the specialists. You know, that's the mentality that it is.
Yep.
Learn everything that you can, and then you can either teach it to others or have assistants that help you out. But you've educated them because you're educated yourself. Education is the key to everything, obviously. Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's always be learning, right? I mean, that's one of the cool things about photography and the internet and folks like you that are putting this stuff out, along with all the free content and the entertainment online, is there's no end to inspiration and education and stuff that you can use to keep going. In the old days, it was like, okay, I'm gonna go to the library. Oh, another magazine showed up. I'm gonna get inspired, you know, and that was it. Now we have this kind of stuff that's always coming out. So yeah, this is amazing. Look, if you want me to dive into it more, I mean, like I said, it is 6 hours. Yeah. And the thing that I come back to with most of my guides is that they're fun and informative. This one, it's not off the wall. I'm not acting all crazy. We utilize hungry hippos to demonstrate frame rate. You know, we use the metronome, the piano. We use my bobblehead to show things with focus. We go out. The key to this, you have the 2 hours split up into the education of the understanding like sliders, where we show you all the different slider options that we have and show you how they work.
Yep.
And then we go out into the field on real shoots. One's at a bowling alley. We call it an EPK, which is an electronic press kit, where we're interviewing one of my friends who has bowled 300 games. So the idea behind it is we want to interview him and make an EPK. So you've got your interview, you have him bowling, you have the pins to focus on, your B-roll, your pickup shots. You've got to know how to do the audio. We show it start to finish how to make that work. So that, an EPK is a situation that a lot of photographers will find themselves in. If you're photographing a band and the band goes, "Hey, you know what? We need something better than a bio." And you're like, I can shoot an interview. Let me interview you guys. And then you shoot B-roll of them playing or warming up or just sitting backstage.
Perfect.
And you whip that together into an EPK. Yeah. Another thing we do is if you're looking to become a filmmaker, we have the whole process we wrote a script called The Ring Finger. It's cheesy as hell, but it's a script to get you to learn. It's two people. So you've got your one girl, you've got your guy, and it's set at a bar. I rented places out to do it, so it was real. It's not just sitting in a studio telling you, you're watching it firsthand happening. So you've got the script, we call it a narrative, so we go over that. We have where I'm sitting there making a YouTube video. I walk through how I start to finish, make a YouTube video on my own with nobody here.
See, that's gold by itself. Just that piece is gold.
Well, it is, but there's even, I give like I think it's a 30-minute bonus on how to be successful on YouTube. I just go into the whole thing of, my phone's ringing. Shut up, phone. I go into that bonus thing is like, look, this is what I do to be successful on YouTube.
Yeah.
Here's what I think you should do.
Are you calling me?
No.
All right, here we go. Keep going.
So, the bonus for the YouTube part that I give people is, this is what I did to be successful on YouTube. I'm giving you all the ideas for how I keyword things, how I title things, the reason I do this, how often I think you should put out content. I'm not holding any of that back. I'm just giving it. I give it because not everybody's going to be able to do it, but it's going to give somebody the cliff notes on how you could be successful if you want to start putting up videos on YouTube. Yeah. But I show how my YouTube videos are made.
See that all that stuff. I mean, before you continue, I wanted to touch on a little bit. Just people see one dimension of Jared Polin. And they see your YouTube channel, they see your podcast and your show and all that stuff, and they see this animated guy who knows his stuff and sometimes controversial. But I gotta say, Jared, you have to be one of the hardest working online photopreneurs out there, because you do all the stuff and you have the personality online, but behind the scenes you are working like a coal miner.
Well, I don't ever want to stop. I've been to a place where I was sitting around doing nothing for a while, just waiting for things to happen, instead of making things happen. Because as my dad wrote me a letter one day, and in the letter, because he was worried about me, just sitting around trying to figure out what to do, and he goes, "There's 3 types of people in this world: people who make things happen, people who let things happen, and people who wonder what the hell happened."
Yep.
And he's like, "Which one are you?" And I don't like being criticized. I don't like, but it makes sense. And when I was sitting around thinking, I'm like, I don't want to share any of my information, because then somebody else is going to do it and I'm not going to get that job. Yeah. And then I pulled a 180 and I'm like, screw it. I'm going to give all this information out. Why not? Yeah. It's going to help people. It's going to help me in return, because it's all about, you want to help yourself and you want to help others. Yeah. It's cyclical. It all works together.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I totally agree. And, that bit that flipped in your head about, going from the you can't play with my marbles to, hey, play with my marbles kind of thing. That I don't know. I think that might be a generational or cultural thing, because it was an old time thing of, hey, I have the secrets to wedding photography and all this stuff. And then now these, the next generation of photographers are like, hey, dude, I'll tell you everything I know, because
some will.
You're never going to be me regardless, because I am a commodity. If you do what I do, you're still not going to be me. So why not share, right?
Oh yeah, and that's absolutely correct. And then the one last part of the guide, the one of the 4 video shoots, is a music video shoot. So there's a lot of people out there who want to make music videos. Well, you're going to see how a music video is made. The FroKnowsPhoto music song, my rap song, you know, my I Shoot Raw song. So we show that whole process from running outside with some kind of Steadicam rig to how we, from all the B-roll that we cut into it. You get to see everything start to finish. So not only do you get to see it being made, but then you see the final results after, and you go, oh, I remember when they shot that and showed us how they messed it up first, but then they got it right on the next take.
That is
because
so
video, cool. Look, video is not it's not a walk in the park. You know, it's not a quick process where you come in, take a picture, and leave. But it can be a quicker process if you understand pre-production. And we have a whole section on how to get your pre-production right to make sure that you're ready when it's time to shoot your video so that it goes quicker. Because it's expensive sometimes to have a crew, or it's expensive to rent a place.
Yeah. So where is this guide at, and when is it going to be available, and how much does it cost, and all those details?
It's available right now. You have a link down below, I'm assuming, somewhere.
Yep, I will.
To link people to. We wanted to sell it for $197, but right off the bat, we knocked 50% off for the launch.
Cool.
So it's $97 for a digital download, and it's also available as a DVD for $10 more.
Oh, cool.
It's only $10 more, well, because I have to have the thing made.
Yeah.
And then I have to ship it.
Right.
So you can get both options, and when you get the DVD, it comes with it's NTSC for anybody around the world, but it's region free, so most players should play it today. So there's 3 discs that we split that onto, and the 4th disc is actually a data DVD. They're all dual layer, so it's 8.4 gigabytes. We put the digital files on there as well, so not only do you get them to play in your DVD player, but you get the digital files to have on your computer, and that's what you also get when you download the guide as well.
Really cool. But
also, Frederick.
Yeah, go for it.
Frederick, pick me.
Yeah, you with the hair. Go ahead.
You probably linked below or on the page somewhere. We give the 8-minute preview of what's in the guide. There's, I think, 8 different segments we show cuts of so that you can get a taste of what's inside. Okay. And you can actually learn from them because we give away that information.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm gonna link to all that stuff in the post for this. You know, and that's, you know, the 6 hours of this stuff. Well, when you started building this, was the avatar in your head the kind of the seasoned advanced amateur photographer? He understands his way around the camera, and then when he goes through the gauntlet of Jared Polin's guide DSLR video, at the end, you will understand how to cut a video. You'll understand how to cut a music video. You'll understand the dynamics of YouTube, all that stuff. By the
filming aspect of it.
The filming aspect.
Cut, you have to be careful because it doesn't cover it. We don't dive deep into the editing aspect. We dive into how to create this stuff first and foremost. Yep. I mean, I had to teach myself editing many moons ago. I remember doing that. Yeah. That wasn't exciting, but that's why we're making that guide after that. But it's where were we?
Yeah.
I forget again.
No. Just what's in it and who's it for.
Oh, yeah, the who's it's for part, when I first set out to make it, it was to give anybody that wanted to switch off into video the tools. And more so, I was thinking it's going to be for the beginner and the intermediate. But then I sat there and I was like, you know what? Even the pros, because I hate to say that a product is for everybody. Yeah. Because it's kind of dumb to say that. Yeah. To think that you create something that's for everybody. But in this case, I sat there and I said, well, if you've never ventured into video, or you ventured into it, but you weren't sure why you got things wrong or how to set the camera, even as a professional, me raising my hand, I wish I had this when I started. So whether you're a professional, the person who just bought their camera, or somebody who's been an amateur or a hobbyist that either wants to get better video of their kids or learn how to take videos at weddings or parties or anything, or if you want to make money with it, we're giving everybody the tools to make that happen.
Jared Polin, always a pleasure talking to you, man. You rock. This has been this is all, when I talk to you, it's always the tip of the iceberg stuff. You know, even when we just, talk informally, you have so much knowledge in your head and so much passion about this stuff that it's like a volcano overflowing. But you captured this in this course, so congratulations on it. I'm sure it's going to be successful, and and I have it on my hard drive here. So thank you for that. Cool, man. So FroKnowsPhoto.com is where you're at. Where would you like people to go to just follow you? Is it FroKnowsPhoto.com?
Well, yeah, you can go to FroKnowsPhoto.com. On YouTube, you can subscribe to the channel. But obviously, if you search for a photo video on YouTube, you've probably seen one of my 1,700 plus videos. Jeez. You can subscribe we're kicking ass with the videos that we're creating now. Now that I have a full-time guy who's helping me shoot and edit, we can turn out much better content than what I could do on my own.
Yeah.
So it's really nice to have the right person to do that. The podcast, FroKnowsPhoto Raw Talk, you can get it on iTunes, but we also film it with 4 cameras each week.
Yeah.
So you can watch that 1.5 to 2 hours of really nice content on your TV or on YouTube or wherever you want to do it. All over the place. You know where to find me.
Yeah, that Raw Talk is really well done, by the way. It's really multiple camera shoot, lighting. You're awesome. What was it? It's like the Bachelor loft pad over there is just killer. So
well, yeah. I mean, it's nice to have a place to work from and live.
Yep.
You know, because you want to talk about business. People want to like, hey, I want to get an office. That's a big nut to swallow each month, you know, to have to pay an extra X amount of dollars to have an office somewhere else when you can kind of take a tax cut and stuff, a tax deduction on your own.
That's right.
And work out of your own place. I've always been about, you know, trying to conserve what you're spending because it's just, you know, it's better to save it.
Why not? This whole internet thing is the great enabler. So,
yep.
Cool, man. All right. You have a good day, and thanks a lot for the conversation.
Thank you for having me.
All right, man. Take care.